Hello. So, those little free libraries that are all around our great nation of the US of A? Well, there are several in New York, in my very neighborhood in the East Village, aka the Lower East Side. And I picked up this book. Uh, Everything is Now, Primal Happenings, Radical Music, Underground Movies, and the 60s New York Avant Garde by J. Hoberman. This is uncorrected page proofs. This was in the little free library. It looked like it had never been read. The book is brand new. Just published a couple days ago. Mr. Hoberman had a reading or something, an opening, and found out about it the day after. Anyway, I picked it up and I thought, oh well, okay, okay, and it's quite interesting. Um, Now, I came to New York in 1984, so all this is the 60s and 70s, and a lot of the stuff I kind of saw when it got into the big culture, like, all the way out to Ohio. I think I saw Warhol movies, the Morrissey Warhol movies in Ohio, I seem to recall, like Trash uh, and Flesh for Frankenstein or whatever, the 3D one. It is something that touched my life in a certain way, and so anyway, the book is really full of a lot of information about those days and a lot of some he's interviewed several of the people that are still around, and some of these people I would still see even though I came in 84. I would still see some of these people around. Actually, for 20 years I lived right next, or like a half a block away on First Street, near the Anthology Film Archive, in the big old courthouse on 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue. And so I was a member of that. So I saw, several of the movies that are mentioned here, the underground movies, because they did have an essential movie free shows all the time. Like on Sunday afternoon at 5, you could see essential movies, like, a series of, the underground movies. And it was free if you were a member. So I would do that occasionally. So over the years, I've seen some of these things, and they have, interested me and touched me and actually inspired me to a certain extent, as well as some of these other people. Of course, there's a lot of, you know, I I thought about walking around a neighborhood and showing you some. He shares some addresses of this or that thing, like this happened in this place. Like Diane Arbus, the photographer, lived on 10th Street. I'm currently on 10th Street, and she lived what, I don't know, a block or so away from where I am now, over toward the east. And I could have gone there and say, well, there's a building, and whatever. So he talks about the Elgin Theater, which used to show underground movies for a while, and so forth. And my very first time in New York, which was in the spring of 1970, I actually came into New York, and I had nowhere idea where I was, whatever. Somehow, I had a ticket to see the Mother's Invention at the Fillmore East, so I went to the Fillmore East and saw the Mother's Invention, and then I also saw a movie. I think it was Brand X. It was called, which was a movie because Abby Hoffman was in it, and I was a fan of Abby Hoffman. I was like a suburban wannabe yippie, So who got organized through the television, which was what at one point talks just to diverge here a minute. He talks about somebody toward the end mentioning Abby Hoffman as the greatest performance artist of the scene, which had the biggest impact. And in a way, that's sort of true because his maneuverings was able to really kind of organize me, this kid out in Ohio. So I didn't know, and actually I ended up confronting Abby, meeting him for a moment, and he gave me a hug at a May Day rally in New Haven in 1970. So that was for Bob for the Black Panthers who were on trial there. Several Black Panthers were on trial there for whatever it was, and there was a big rally that May Day with a lot of famous speakers came to talk, including Jean Genet. It's all rather interesting, and I have mixed feelings about the whole thing, as the Beats in particular. I had close, in a way, I was brought into New York by someone who was, 2 degrees of separation from all this, by this guy, Ken Jordan. Ken Jordan, I met while he was in college still at University of Michigan. And I lived in way upstate New York at that point, and met a University of Michigan girl that summer at a discotheque, and kind of fell for her and went out to Michigan to be with her. So that was, I was already, whatever, 30 years old. And so that was crazy. But anyway, there I met Ken Jordan, and through some sort of circumstances, it evolved into me being invited to come and stay at his apartment. There was a room available in an apartment in St. Mark's Place. And so that's how I first moved to New York City. Ken Jordan just passed away, and why he's connected to all this is because he was the son of his father. What's his father's first name? I don't remember right now. But his father, who just died a few years ago as well, Ken died in a mysterious way at age 60, like, within the past year or so. And it's like, okay, what was that about? Because he was involved in certain sorts of activism around the psychedelic world, actually, and which was a complete change from what he was when I met him back in Michigan. He was a straight edge kind of political guy at that point, and he turned into, well, he told me himself, into kind of a lot of the woo, and which is what I don't like about a lot of the psychedelic world. In that, I think I've mentioned this before in other things about how so many of them get involved in the woo. They think, well, this means, this is so wonderful, and this means that also tarot and astrology and a whole bunch of other stuff must be true as well. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Well, whatever, If it's all just games and play, then, well, that's fine. So anyway, Ken was the son of this guy, Jordan, who was the second in line with at Grove Press, which is, pivotal in it is critical and important in the all those movements particularly the beat thing and all that that came out of the 50s and 60s, because Grove Press published a lot of that stuff, and they also started film distribution and owned a movie theater a few blocks from here on 11th Street, which is now a Baha'i faith center of some sort. All this I've learned from the book. Almost the entire story here is told before, before the second wave feminism that hit in the late 60s, around 1970 really, and so forth. And there's some comments in here on that. There was feminists apparently calling out Grove for the type of material they were publishing, which a lot of it has a lot of sadomasochism, actually, in some of the things. Famously, in 1965, they published the story of O, which I was just reading about. I don't remember the lady's name, that really was written by a woman whose husband or lover, friend, 24, 20, 30, 23 years older, was dared, dare, said, a woman can't write an erotic novel. He was a fan of Marquis de Sade, which I guess he took as erotic. I don't know if you ever looked at some of that stuff. It's not really a turn on. It's more of a power game and hellscape, I guess. So the thread of sadomasochism that goes through, that I found in a certain in the, at least before things actually turned really political into the 60s here, with the Vietnam War really starting up and really cooking up and really bringing home a body count and a body count there. A lot of the art was just sort of you know, breaching the envelope, to shock, to bring a lot of meat around, and I don't know. So the whole thing of the theater of cruelty, and which I don't quite understand. So this need to shock, to me that seems somewhat sadomasochistic, to get pleasure out of shocking, perhaps even hurting other people, breaching their it's not something that converts people when you shock them, when you try to dismantle their sensibilities by throwing stuff in front of them. So to me, it's the impulse is really to kind of hurt or call attention to the self, get some power or something. So shock entertainment to me has a certain element of sadomasochism, I think. At least that's what I'm thinking at the moment. So, but what the fuck do I know? I'm just some old guy. I'm not one of these great artist people and intellectuals, but I have a channel and I have a microphone. So, the approach I take about this stuff is personal, because it is my channel. I can do what I want. So I think of myself, myself in the situations, myself as a type of artist, whatever, a folky artist or whatever. I mean, not particularly genre, although that too, but I mean someone who has other work but also produces art, which I think is the best thing. I mean, I'm a little anti-professional in a certain sense. A lot of these people in the book are of course, the same. They are more. They might have other jobs. They might have no jobs. They might, live off the system in some kind of way. So it's like the whole professional artist thing. So I think of myself in these situations, and also when I read all this stuff. I mean, if you read a lot of novels and other nonfiction books about people, the thing is, people like to take things to get off and to change the consciousness. Alcohol is enormous. So I'm very quite interested in the effects of these things on the art that we consume. We have the rock and roll stars, for example, like David Bowie. What would David Bowie have been without cocaine? I think he would have been somewhat different in some periods. Better or worse, I'm not here to say, but different. And back here in this book, we have people who are drinking. We have LSD. LSD was a very big thing, kind of new and exciting in my generation. I was when I was in high school in Ohio, and the very end of the '60s. I was ready to take LSD as soon as I got it, and I did in April of 1970, and it was great, So that's kind of what its own thing. But the other sort of stimulant. I mean, that had effect on art in a certain sort of way. But I mean the really kind of more aggressive drugs, like speed. And there seems to be a good deal of speed use in these people back then. So, when you're charging up on speed and, amphetamines, methamphetamine, uh, your production is going to be different. I mean, it might dwindle to nothing, but it also might pick up for a great deal, at least for a couple of years until, hit the burnout level or something. So, also community. You have to, it really helps to plug into some kind of a community. I mean, that's sort of why I mentioned the whole, gay thing, because that was a community that did support a certain type of art. We see, the rise of the fame of sort of drag performers, and the ridiculous theater and so forth, and so that's that. Now, and that's the part of the destructive force of the internet. What I'm talking to you through now is that, many of us are a little shy or a little reticent or a little, or trained over years to be afraid of other people, which is something that power wants. We want you to be afraid of each other so you don't organize and cause a problem. So yeah, I've been a type of person who embraced this sort of internet stuff, and I don't know if it pulled back of what I would have done live with other people in the real world or not. It's 25 years later, it's a little hard to judge. But back then there wasn't that kind of thing. And there was community, and there was a certain type of community that fell apart and made alliances and came together. There were political groups that got together and did things. There's a lot of information about that in here. All sorts of things that happen that aren't really happening now, and that's why, in a sense, to some of us older people, it does sort of feel like an end game. Like, okay, like power is herding us all into these platforms and so forth, and we're all safe in a way somewhere. We're not in the street. We're not together conspiring for real change. So there's that. So I would recommend this book. I think it's good, and he's a very good writer. So it's a pleasure to read the text that just sort of right along when it could have been really tedious with descriptions of plays and paintings and happenings, all this stuff that you really have to be there to experience in full. But Mr. Hoberman's descriptive skills are in force here, and it's a good book to read and enjoyable to read on its own. It kind of was pointless for me to be in New York anyway. I mean, I did get in a band and things like that, and I've had. I mean, it's been great for me to be in New York, although I really haven't contributed much to any kind of community here, at least after the first couple of years, due to my attachment with Maddie, who made this had wonderful songs, and we had this band together that made a bit of a splash. And we're doing a podcast now with that, and I can link that if you want to hear about that. You can. So we could use more subscribers, but I don't know. In a sense. So, me from the point of view of who I am and, reading about this, I'm reading about, people that aren't really involved with me. That I'm reading about an elite. I'm reading about some other kind of a thing, and largely very male actually, and a lot of male homosexuality, which whatever. But I'm not gay, although things go on. So it's a lot of it I don't really relate to in a way that like a gay man might. Some of the underground films and so forth. So whatever. And I think I'm going to turn to more personal things. I think I want to do more of this biography stuff like I sort of did with this one just now. Maybe a little deeper and going back to the early days. And because, it's like this is my channel. I have other channels, and I can say what I want. And I do have some stuff to say now, and, particularly politically, in the times, times that have degraded considerably from the 60s, that decade, and gotten a lot. Actually, it's only the 60s. It stops basically at 1971. So things have gotten a lot worse since then. And currently, with war, with Israel attacking Iran and so forth, it's like, what the fuck. So I think that's enough out of me right now. And maybe I'll bring up these topics again when I do the more personal podcast. So anyway, thanks for people who are sticking with this and take the time to bother to watch. I do appreciate it, because I guess I'm doing this to communicate. Still, you know, before I go, fuck it, why bother? So